So I would like to introduce Bruno. I know that he's going to say a couple words about himself too. And as I'm introducing him, I'm just going to promote him to a speaker here. But I had the pleasure of meeting Bruno not so long ago. So really a new connection for me, but he's done some amazing things in a bunch of different verticals and spaces. There he is joining us from his office. I had the chance to kind of hang out there too. But yeah, Bruno, thanks for joining us. I'm super excited to hear all about story selling and what that means.
All right. Well, can you guys hear me?
You bet.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, no.
Oh, okay. Just give me 1 second.
And everyone, make sure you're engaging in this session too. We have awesome prizes. We have another one of those Candygram giveaways. So everyone who is engaging during Bruno, so ask those questions, keep them coming on social media and in the Q&A.
There we go. All right. So you'll be able to see my screen right now?
Yes, we see your email. Now we see your homepage.
All right, ready to go. I thought you were going to share our screen. There you go. Story selling.
Awesome.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Hey, first and foremost, I know a lot of people have made this happen, but I personally want to thank Christina because she's been going back and forth. And for those of you who don't know, she did an absolutely amazing job as one of our panelists at the Women in Power Network group. So thank you very much, Christina, on behalf of us. So, yeah, you know what? We're going to be talking about story selling. It's kind of a play on storytelling, but we're all trying to sell, our goods and services on through digital media, traditional media. And what I really want maybe to have come out of this for everybody is three things. Provide a way to tell your story about your company, your product, your services, whatever you're delivering. Maybe, a different way of looking at traditional concepts of marketing, maybe traditional digital marketing on how we have maybe looked at things, especially the people who are just entering the market. I think Stephen hit it right on just before me, is that, everybody's really uncomfortable with certain things. And it really started off by maybe looking at the way we think things should be and really what they are to us. So that's the second takeaway. And then maybe provide an easy industry accepted kind of Hollywood template that will help you tell your story a little bit more effectively. So let's start off by first, another thing, I'm not a slide guy. So because we had to go virtual, I put some slides together. I'm usually the one that presents without slides and thus the storytelling background. So really quick about my story, because I was asked to say this, I'm basically a business owner, entrepreneur. I understood marketing, I was comfortable with social media. I was an early adapter. I hired a digital marketer. Kind of didn't convert sales the way I thought it would. And basically, I'm one of these people that if I don't get it, I just stop, go back to the back cave and try to figure it out. And that's kind of my story on how we got here. And I just created, first and foremost, before I'm comfortable telling my story or anybody who tells a story, I really think that you have to be comfortable and understanding what my reality and kind of the new reality of what I thought marketing was all about. That was essential because I was not moving forward. So this is kind of the traditional model that I was fed even back in university days. And, you start with a marketing plan, then you go to, there's certain medias, then you get a lead generation, you can read the slide, you get a sales lead, sales process offering, and then comes sales. I got to tell you, it didn't work for me when things did not convert, if you want to call it. So what I decided to do in the back cave is figure out really what am I selling? What am I offering? What is the sales process? What is the sales lead? What is a really good sales lead out of 5? And we had some criteria on that. Then I decided, how do I get people to be interested? I guess that's called lead generation in the biz. And what medias do I need to consider? And then I magically came up with a marketing plan after I considered all this. So I created the Octagon. And what I said about the Octagon was that I got to get a prospect and the seller, which now we are the seller. Now, one of the companies that I own is an actual some people call it staffing, search company. That's an interesting octagon because now we got a couple of octagons going. And that's what complicated my sales process because we want to get candidates to be interested in a job. And then we need clients to be interested in our services. So those are a couple of octagons, and that's pretty tough to figure out. Now, some of you may think that, you know, the octagon comes from the UFC side. I can tell you a funny story. I am not a UFC guy. I'm not an MMA guy, not against it. But this just came up because I started thinking about certain things, and I just came up with the octagon. I'm so not a fighter fan that a friend of mine in Hollywood has the rights to the stories of Horace Gracie. And I said, oh, that's great. Who is she? And I just found out that he was one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. So this is not a pun on anything other than I got to get a prospect and I got to get a seller in there and then, you know, pitch it up, see what happens, right? So what I learned was, you know, your marketing agency, I didn't want to lean on them too much, all right? So I think, you know, your marketing agency can create content, co-create strategy, implement tactics, find leads, you know, generate leads through, you know, the tactics, and get you to the octagon, all right? Get you right, but they cannot, in my opinion, cannot close your deals, all right? That is up to, you know, your salespeople, or that final click that the consumer makes is a decision between you and somebody else. And so I had to really granulize that whole concept and saying, you know, I'll close the deals, but I got to get them into the octagon. So right off the bat, I went back to reframing the story. Now, I'm just going to remind everybody that I know it's about storytelling. I'm telling you, unless you're comfortable with what the circumstances are in the environment, I believe you can't tell a story effectively. And I'm going to go back to Stephen, the previous presenter. He said, most people are uncomfortable, I wrote this down, are uncomfortable being on video for the first time. I have a theory, is because they're uncomfortable because maybe it's not their full story. And if they're not comfortable telling their story, then there's a problem with the story. So what I did was, kind of in my investment background, I started going back to people saying, hey, Bruno, you got to invest in your marketing. You got to invest. Well, to me, investment, I don't know, you put in $1, you get $1.01, all right? And nobody was willing to take that bet. No agency, no marketing people, no digital marketing people I was working with. They said, no, you never know what's going to happen. Well, to me then, that is basically speculation. So an investment, when I studied finance, it was number one, you put a dollar in the stock market and you say, are you willing to lose every dollar you put into the stock market? If it's no, then don't go to level 2. You can't time the market. So what I have to say to myself is, at the end of the day, to me, marketing is speculation. There are no guarantees that you're going to put a ton of money into your marketing campaign and you're going to get $1 back. So that was really frightening for me. So that's another reality. So right now, the other reality that I have to figure out is, what the heck is all this media all about? And I just decided to say, you know, all the medias that I didn't understand, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I don't think many people understood. It was all this digital new age media. And I finally said, yeah, I kind of understand it, but what's wrong with the traditional media? So what I had to decide is, you know, any media may sell your product, and you just have to figure out where you are in your strategy and how much it converts. So I put all medias together. I got traditional media. I was really happy to see the print presentation. That was awesome, because that is a great, you know, they call it traditional. Well, I got news for you. Digital media right now, LinkedIn and all that, you know, Instagram, it's been around for a long time. So if you're talking to some of the people like, you know, the younger people, they're saying that's traditional now. You know, we're moving on to more new wave stuff. So that was another reason for me to really feel comfortable before I went out and tested the market and with my company and my story. So this is kind of a quick funnel, because life is a pile of should, would, could, you know, I can get it. I want to focus in on what I got to get done today. All right. And what do I need to sell today? What do I need to, encourage people to get into the octagon with me? And now this is kind of made up. This is not my company or anything like that. And I'm kind of a game theory person. And what I decided to do was say, what is my today? Now, this is not my company. I just made this up. And I'm saying traditionally now, let's use a traditional form of media. A company that we were dealing with, this is not too far off for a company we were dealing with, is they're spending $1,500 on radio ads and they convert 8, all right? So at the end of the day, you see at the bottom, it says an average close, $200 per one close. Now, I guess that's my reality right now. I got to deal with that. So when I'm telling my story and doing videos and doing posts and whatever you're doing, radio ads, that is your reality. You cannot switch to, total digital and keep your company going, in my opinion. Stop everything. You just can't do it. So this is your reality. That's what you're keeping your doors open with, is with radio or newspaper ads. Now, 24 months from now, telling your story and getting your strategy, we can, I came up with $28 per lead. So I had to get a scorecard like this. Okay. So I presented this to a few of our clients and they kind of go, got it. Because it reduces the anxiety of today. And that's why I put the done funnel. Okay. What you got to get done today is not what you're going to get done in 24 months. All right. So 24 months is kind of the should, could, can, kind of situation. So right now, let's start talking about how to put your story together. Okay. So especially with small to medium-sized companies, what's critical for the owner, I believe, is if you're going to go out there and get people to really get excited about your product, the people who really have an advantage are the owners that are a little bit fanatical about what they do. Now, I'm going to confess, put my hand up, is how can you get fanatical about search? I don't know, but I did. Okay. There is nothing that was more important for me than grow my search company, to the point where I have trademark on software. We built a franchise offering. I'd be here till midnight trying to figure out the simplest thing that maybe we can scale. So think of your business and really think, am I really fanatical about my business? Is there anybody out there that metaphorically in a sword fight in my business that I'm going to lose to? Because that is number one in telling an effective story to try to sell your product, as far as I'm concerned, is if you really feel that you're the best, you got to tell them somehow. Okay. Now, what's crucial for the buyer is there needs to be a crisis. Okay. If there's no crisis, and people don't like this word sometimes, I go, Bruno, you're a little bit out there. Thank you very much. All right. I don't need to be told that I'm a little bit out there, but think of some products that there's a lineup. And today, in our times today, think of the lineup outside, the Costco's and stuff like that. I made a promise I'm not going to talk about it, but, some people line up for donuts. Some people line up for coffee. I cannot understand the Tim Hortons lineup. I just can't. But there's a crisis. I got to get my coffee. So those are the two things, as far as I'm concerned, that are absolutely essential for you to go out there and tell an effective story. Okay. Now, in review, here's the first thing I'm going to tell you guys, that here's my new reality checklist that I had to get really comfortable with. Number one, marketing is speculation. There is no guarantee. The number one goal is to close business. If you don't close business, I coined a phrase, when you're running a business, you run out of money, then time, because you're going to have a lot of time to tell your stories, but you're going to run out of money. So you got to close something. Okay. So the octagon, to me, is the best marketing can achieve for you. Okay. Now, the done funnel, we already talked about it. You got to deal with today and you got to plan for tomorrow, which is basically what you should get done in 24 months. But we got to focus in on what is today. And lastly, but I think is kind of most crucial in storytelling and running your business, is if you're not fanatical about your business, there's a good chance you will never create what I call a crisis for your buyers, ever. Okay. So let's start talking about story. Everybody wants to talk about story. Let's go. Now, here's a checklist. It's a lot harder to get this done than just following a little checklist, because most stories come from the heart, not the head. All right. So think about any kind of situation you've been into when somebody says, hey, you know what? I got to tell you something. It's between me and you. All right. Well, you think about posts that are really engaging. You think of, stuff like the ice bucket challenge that comes to mind. You think of your favorite sports team, favorite movie. Well, what happens is that I believe these three things are there. Number one, it's inclusive. Number two, it's exclusive. You can only get it here. And then somehow, if we can make it feel personal to the person who is considering getting into your octagon, then your story's off to the right, start. Now, every story could be every post that you make, but I'm going to talk about global story selling. Okay. So what better way to learn about storytelling than Hollywood? Now, I've had the opportunity to go to and speak to a couple of producers. I'm not a big movie guy. I leave that to my son. But the big thing is that movies are only as good as their story over time. There's just so many explosions you can have on version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? They usually don't make it to the cutting board in the second time. So I took the best practices in Hollywood and I said, okay, now I'm getting a little bit more comfortable after I spoke to some of these producers. And what they told me was basically the process to get your story out is the idea can only come from the owner of your company. That's it. Okay. And that's kind of like the creator of a story. They'll write a story. And then this is where the support group comes in. So you might be able to write it on your own. All right. But you may need the assistance of, let's call it a screenwriter. Okay. And we don't have to spend a lot of money or time on this. I'm just saying this is where this, the support comes in. Now, production, this is one of the things I learned from somebody in Hollywood, and they said the production team has to fully understand and buy into the idea and the script and produce that idea into reality. If the production crew changes the story, then it's not a story that was supposed to be told. So, and then the distribution is basically your media. Now, this is where, I think in my bio somewhere it says we're with Calgary Edmonton Business with Megapix. Well, what happened was I kind of got the first three kind of going because I started a small production outfit here to help support our script and our ideas. And the media is a distribution. Now, we ended up buying Calgary Edmonton Business and Megapix because we wanted to own the distribution channel. Okay. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, those are medias of distribution. Okay. But what I felt was we didn't have enough control of when it went out and how it went out. Basically, I call it effortless effectiveness, which really means I need to be in full control of how you distribute my story, my company. Now, not everybody can go out and buy a media company, but I found it essential. So if you have a media outlet that you own, you have a better chance of controlling what goes out, when, how, and where, and complement the traditional media houses, not to mention the cost difference too, all right? Okay, so here we go. Now I'm going to switch to a Word document here in a second because I just didn't feel on the PowerPoint it would look really good. So when it says build your own treatment, I want to emphasize that a treatment, okay, is not like a vaccine or anything like that. What it is, it's an actual name of a document, okay? And it's an entertainment industry standard that will help you tell your story and promote your story. So if you guys give me 1 second, I'm going to pull out a template and you guys can share this. So hopefully you guys can see this. So, I used to be a big Seinfeld fan. I always use this as an example that the first episode of Seinfeld was actually, they went out and pitched the story to NBC, which is a media. And so the big deal was they had a screenplay, or not a screenplay, but a story, and they went to sell it. Well, that all started off with a treatment. So the treatment is an actual document that you write down, and this is, and you pitch it to networks. This is the traditional way. Well, I kind of started thinking a little differently with my brief exposure, my little exposure to the Hollywood folks. And we can take that offline if you want to know the stories. But I'm going to treat all my campaigns, people call them campaigns, I call them series. All my series of posts, they have to be in a treatment template. Now, that's something that Megapix, Calgary's Edmonton Business, that's what we kind of do. We help you, not, you know, and also we do distribution. But I treat every reason for us to post non-accidental, all right? By that, I mean, if you take this template and I write down the name of the show is called, you know, My Realtor, okay? Now, I'm just showing you the actual template, what you need to fill out. And the storyline is whatever, the realtor sells properties in this area. So now you explain how the story goes. I'm going to show you a real example here. And how they want to see a treatment is, tell me about the first 7 episodes. You know, the first one might be good or bad, but tell me about the next 7. And here's the big kicker, because here's the speculation part of the new reality, is this. Pretend you got to sell this to a network. Who would pay to put an advertising on your posting to convert their sales? So that's just a new reality that worked for me. And now the last part that they would ask for is potential networks that would carry your series, okay? So I kind of said, hey, if the big boys want to carry, you know, my series, then it might be good for my company to tell that story. So I'm going to show you a real one. And so this is something that I was asked to put together in 2012, I believe. And this person here, we can take it offline to tell you the story, but was a very successful reality series person. She created one of the most successful reality series shows. And I don't know, they were kind of fascinated with my profession, because being a headhunter was kind of like The Amazing Race / The Apprentice when Donald Trump was doing the Apprentice. So, oh, by the way, I got my address there if you guys want to send me cookies or something. But this is an actual registered with the Writers Guild. So what I needed to do was tell them what my log line is right here, all right? So my reality show is about professional recruiters, and they're pitted against each other. Basically, that's what it is. And now the synopsis is it takes place in LA, North America, and the host sets the stage by saying, hey, listen, we got this search. You got 3 minutes to tell me what you're looking for, and then boom, you go after it. So I put down basically all the details of what that show is going to be all about. Now, what does it mean for our postings? What it means is at the end of the day, they're going to buy my product. Yeah. So I'm telling you all the steps, and some people call it funneling. That's fine. I call this basically your synopsis. What is your synopsis of your campaign? Okay. Again, we call it series. What is your series all about? And now I tell you what the first 7 episodes, these are kind of my first 7 posts, and why they fill in, when they fill in, and who's going to watch. You know, you're going to have to watch episode 1 to watch 6. You can't watch, thus the concept of binge watching right now. Okay. So now I say, who will advertise? So I had to tell them these. Now understand 2012, okay, LinkedIn, I can't remember if they had just started job posting, but it wasn't that big, okay? And I thought, hey, you know what? LinkedIn could do this, and I had to pitch it to these networks right here, all right? So now I had a really good mentor, I'm not gonna lie, and she actually walked me through this. And she was involved with mostly A&E. One of the things that they really liked was we never thought of LinkedIn, because that was kind of new media, okay? They said, do you think so? And the other one they liked about the advertising potential, because I'm a recruiter, I think this way, they're in entertainment, they think that way. I'm saying, you know, universities and colleges are looking for an avenue to attract good talent. And because the headhunter, you know, title is chasing really smart people, apparently, you know, they're not going to chase people that aren't valuable, then university and colleges would probably want to advertise. So really, this is almost like narrowing down your audience, I see. So what I'm proposing here is, if you're able to put something like this together for your campaign, or we call it series again, then I believe you're going to be really comfortable telling your story. Because once I started this, I wasn't comfortable telling what a recruiter does. I don't know, it just wasn't comfortable. And then all of a sudden, when I understood the whole media thing and how it would hit them, now it made sense. And I put it on paper and they got what I was telling. So I learned a long time ago that, you know, it's pretty clear in your mind, but it's not clear to the world until you talk about it and it clears up a little bit. Once you put it on paper, okay, or on the screen, it becomes a lot clearer. They got the concept. Now I got to tell you, it got to fourth place in one of the cutting rooms. And again, I just keep saying this, take it offline if you want to hear a funny story on who we lost out to, but it was pretty interesting. I was pretty nervous. But that's basically what a treatment is. And that's what I use to encourage people to tell their stories, okay? So if we go back to our presentation here, I personally cannot really emphasize on how important the whole storyboarding concept was for me, because otherwise it would just be throwing stuff out there. And that's kind of what a few people out there asked me to do, is just like, do this post and do that post and convert this and convert that. I just wasn't really comfortable with doing that. We got I don't even care about being comfortable. We just weren't getting results, right? So that's kind of how I want to encourage people to get out of their shell, is number one, understand the reality of you going out there and you're really speculating. So again, the three things that I was going to say that I want to offer up in this presentation was a way to tell your story. So fundamentally, structurally, using a treatment. And again, if you need any help, you contact us at Megapix and, you know, we'll walk you through it. That's a very simple step by step. You know, it's simple, but it ain't easy, all right? Because it's really tough to get your story out, because it starts from your heart. And people sometimes have a difficult time speaking from their heart. So that's the number one thing, is, you know, how to tell your story. Consider using a treatment document, okay, or a process. So the other thing was, you know, I did offer, you know, a new way to look at traditional concepts. And my new reality was really, again, to repeat myself, was marketing is speculation, right? The number one goal is to close. Get into the octagon is the best, best a marketing campaign can do. You got to close it. Something has to close it. Sometimes it's a motive, sometimes it's an incentive. But if my marketing efforts get my buyer and seller in that octagon, call it a networking group or something, I'm sitting right at the table, now's my time. That's number three. Number four, consider the done funnel. Maybe, you know, stay away from stressing out about 24 months now. Figure out what you can do now. And I think, and, you know, I'm plugging Stephen here a couple of times, because, you know, he said, just do one video. Just do one video, right? But I'm saying, do your treatment first before you do the video, so you know why that video, and the second, third, fourth, fifth will just fly down, right? Trust me, I did it. So, and lastly, which I think is firstly, is if you're not fanatical about your business, don't expect anybody to have a crisis to buy any of your products or services, okay? So I always say, you know, here we go. I can't get this guy. Go. Oh, there you go. Trust only yourself with your story, okay? And that's why I don't use a lot of slides. And I really mean that, is never, ever get anybody to convince you your story is not your story. It's your business. It's your history. If that's not the way you want to tell it, don't tell it, because you're going to be uncomfortable. So trust only yourself with your story. Now, this is a breathing moment, right? And this is something I shared with one of my sons who created something and got a little nervous. If he sees this, he can get mad at me, but hey, nobody showed this video to my son. But and I had to come up with something, because, you know, they're everything to me. And I said, remember one thing, and I coined this phrase, and again, been quoted a couple times, be careful when you quote it, you got to back it up, is that if you're a creator, you're typically not going to criticize somebody because you know how hard it is to create. And if you're a criticizer, you're probably never going to create. And I kind of picked up a few people like Steven Spielberg, and yeah, I've never heard him really, criticize anybody. And then you got these criticizers that I look it up and they've never created anything. So it takes a lot of courage, a ton of courage to create something, because you got to go first. That's what creating means. You got to go first. And so for me to create this new reality for me, and now being involved with, I'm telling you, incredible, passionate, unbelievable, energized people that I'm involved with the media company right now. I get up every morning wanting to create more stuff, and they're so nice. They don't throw me under the bus here because I'm out there. And these are the two, what I call breathers. Take a deep breath if you're a creator, because you know what? Criticizers never create. And you know what? Pretty much that's what I got for you guys today. So, Christina, I don't know if you guys have any questions, but this is a real pleasure. And yeah.
Bruno, that was excellent. Thank you so much. I loved your little bit about distribution plan. And, we see that all the time. People create an amazing video or create something absolutely amazing. And then you're like, well, what are you going to do with it? And they're like, well, I don't know. I thought I would just put it on my website, and these things go unwatched. So that's a wonderful piece of advice. There's a lot of nuggets in there. I also loved the end where you were like a creator or criticizer, right? The whole idea of putting yourself out there is definitely the hardest part. So thank you again. Thanks so much for that. Yay.
Thanks a lot.
Track of clapping.